Yeah, how's it going? Today is Wednesday and it's 10th of January. We're taking a look at the market, what kind of opportunities are available out there. Since my business is based in Bristol, I thought I'll touch on Bristol and some of the key things that will be happening within the area. Something that I have taken a look at already that will be help in purchasing some of the hardware that would be potentially cameras and how that might fit with the bigger picture of cost savings for many businesses. Let's progress, right? And let's take a look at Bristol's clean air zone and what this government has going on. Let's preface this video by saying, okay, what is vacancy, empty vacancy, or commercial property rate within some of the states within the U.S. We're taking like about 35, perhaps 40% vacancy rate with some of those commercial properties, right? That's a massive liabilities on the balance sheet of the council, right? But that would be perhaps some of the states U.S., right? I don't know how Bristol is doing. I don't know. Perhaps there might be some opportunities. If you're interested in commercial property, there might be some opportunities there. But what I'm saying is Birmingham is currently with level up fund is looking for about 300 million within the next 2 years. Perhaps Bristol is looking for the same 300 million. What they're doing is huge hush hush kind of thing. So Bristol has taken a completely different strategy where Birmingham is going in guns blazing. Uh, Bristol perhaps taking more kind of different approach, I guess, of how to raise that capital, right? Those 300 million, or you perhaps even more within the next 2 years, right? And it's something that they perhaps themselves are looking to introduce that with the clean air zones in the city center, which potentially mean charging vehicles of entering the city center, right? And by doing that, perhaps they will raise a lot of capital, which is kind of great, I guess. And government is taking actions where they would make manufacturing of vehicles obsolete petrochemical vehicles within 2035. So the manufacturing will stop. So perhaps there's some opportunities within that time frame to raise some capital, which is great. So council is doing its best there. Let's take a look at this opportunity and let's touch on some of the brief points what might be important, and then take a look at some of the new charges coming into effect. Uh, this is what has been sent to me. I don't know if this information is accurate. Perhaps most likely it's accurate, but I don't know if it is. Clean Air Zone financial support. Within 82% of vehicles in Bristol are now compliant. An initial report of the Clean Air Zone showed Bristol air is getting cleaner and air pollution is reducing. A full report will be published next week on the first year of the clean air zone, I guess that's what they're referring to. If your vehicle isn't compliant, you are looking to upgrade to a cleaner vehicle that won't be charged in the zone. Funding is available to help more businesses and people in Bristol. If you earn less than 30,000 a year, a Bristol-based business, are self-employed or self-trader, you can apply for funding. Okay, so there's some incentives there. I haven't seen those incentives. They might be released soon. Myself, I'm looking and taking part, right? So some of those notes. I don't know about training. I don't think Bristol offers training for professionals, right? So everyone's taking a lot of action. Myself, I'm looking to reach out, perhaps Bristol College. What about training for professionals and working with electric vehicles and everything? What's happening? I think the professionals are still being trained on how to fix petrochemical vehicles. This is a thing still happening, right? So perhaps there should be some action, just some feedback, I guess, or action can be taken there. But that is great, I guess. I have seen some of those projects where they are planning of manufacturing a lot of different energy storage systems within Bristol area, which is great, right? We are also able to support business with larger fleets or more than 5 vehicles. So there is incentives there. I can do it as well as drive your bike to work schemes. So they're actively working within those areas, right? I haven't seen this particular scheme. Perhaps I can reach out to the team and understand this a little bit better, right? Briefly, I can touch on some of those charges that most likely will come into effect, right? That would be how council can potentially raise additional resources. Uh, I don't know how much in resources they would be able to raise, right? And but anything that's not limited to that. Perhaps there would be charging points, and money would be exchanging hands in those charging points where you can charge those vehicles, right? If it's electric fuel cells, I think, or batteries, right? So then you can additionally raise some capital there as well. So there's some charges there. So perhaps about £5 a day, and we are taking a look at how many companies can manufacture those vehicles. Perhaps 6 companies. I'm just that's overall reflection of everything what's happening. Perhaps there's more companies that can do that, but not on a large scale. But again, this is something that city council is looking into introducing, right? I don't know. There's some issues there. If it's good, it's bad for people to decide, I guess. Let's perhaps touch on the map, right? That would be a Bristol Clean Air Zone and something that's been highlighted within the map, and how that initial phase might look like. So perhaps that would be levels, right? So that's how I guess I'm rephrasing it. So how I would understand that, and from there we can progress into perhaps level 2, level 3, level 5, and all those zones, right? With all these areas increasing, right? It might be for the best, I guess. Myself coming into this, I have my own business perspective. How can people have to come into and have some of the piece of the pie, right? Myself, I'm interested in building cars. So perhaps I'll reflect on this information that I will be reading either way, and perhaps share some information with others that are perhaps business opportunities within those areas, right? Perhaps there's another way of looking at it. I don't know, it's good, it's bad. Myself, I don't know how to. It's very hard perhaps to manufacture those cars and all the different vehicles there. It's very hard perhaps, but there might be more incentives when it comes to manufacturing, right? But again, with all the cost, even materials going up by at least 20%, copper, lithium, at least 20% going up, right? With car or different vehicle prices, we're taking a look at a 50,000 entry point. Perhaps even those prices are going up. I don't know, that's overall reflection on the market. Something that I have touched on already, right? So that perhaps some of those government schemes where they currently, as we speak right now, they would be offering charging stations, right, and support for charging stations and or some of the support, but only from selected manufacturers, and they would have set standards of how old the vehicle can be, many things, right, to consider before even purchasing some of those vehicles. I was even thinking about lifespan of the vehicle itself. So if there was a battery in the vehicle, how long that vehicle lifetime value of the vehicle would be 8 years until you need to replace those batteries, and it would be a lot cheaper to purchase a new vehicle again after 8 years. so, so it's a lot of factors to consider, right? And for people out there, yeah, so there was something that perhaps I can touch on that. Perhaps we're taking a look at the history of light bulb. So that would be electric light bulb, and there was people who came together and they have decided that they weren't going to manufacture better light bulbs other than light bulbs that would last for 1,000 hours, I think it was. And there was the 5 businesses who agree on that standard, and everyone manufacture light bulbs based on that standard. So we're gonna go with the vehicles, electric vehicles that would last for 8 years until the person would purchase another vehicle, which is great. We get to that economy moving, right? And that would be perhaps an initial financial support available for different businesses, and or perhaps for most affected, perhaps like a taxi or a van company. So van companies that I have seen, there's only one company manufacturing electric powered vans I was able to find on a government's website. Perhaps there's a few of those. I have seen only one, so perhaps we'll touch on that as well. There's a big difference, I think, between loans and grants, but either way. So with grants is something I have touched on. Perhaps there's additional loans, but then you would be directed to some of those partners, right? And they might be able to offer you a loan to purchase a vehicle. But I think if your business, there's a law, right? And if your business would suffer from perhaps penalties. So if you're not making enough money, it would make sure that you're getting more in depth, I guess. Depends, right? Depends on location, right? Perhaps if you would be able to drive a car there, right? So why can car drive itself? Well, that's how I'm looking at it. But either way, if the car is there and you need to drive it, and you already paying a fee, perhaps to operate your vehicle, perhaps try to do a car sharing, where if you were to purchase a vehicle, you might find a friend, I guess, and then he would drive for 8 hours, another friend would drive for 8 hours, another friend would drive for 8 hours. Then it's 24-hour circle, and three people driving the same vehicle. Then you can perhaps reduce some of those costs, right, of operating vehicle in the city center. It's another way of looking at it, where you can potentially share a car and operate a business kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know. That I'm just trying to poke a little bit of fun, but I don't know how some of those fees might affect the local or smaller businesses within the area. Yourself, if you're interested in learning more, I have published a book where I'm taking a look at livestock enterprise, and I'm looking to introduce as many people as I can when it comes to livestock enterprise, and things that many people would need to know. That would be a progression from zero, where everyone would begin to first 10,000 euros, dollars, pounds, and operating more sustainable business. Perhaps it could look like that you would begin take a look at your budget where you are, then you take a look at your expenses, right? Perhaps at the top might be mortgage or house payments, from there food, and perhaps third expense would be cars and or the vehicle expenses. So it's something I'm taking a look at within this video, right? So perhaps food, how you can reduce that by perhaps living more sustainable and growing your own food. From there, any surplus, perhaps you can sell back in the community, right? That would potentially can progress and or take a look at your expenses and how the process can look like. You can find it QR code in the contact components outside below. Myself, I don't know. I'll try to reach out to the team. See if I need to have any license to operate and or do anything. Perhaps I can solve the problem, and or then even if we were to begin with education, perhaps that would be another way of doing it. But other than that, just touching on this program, that's just a part of the cycle. I guess this is what's happening across the world, right? And sustainable travel options. Let's touch on those. Sustainable travel. That would be free cycling trials. Great. You can drive your cycle and drive your bike, as well as e-scooter credit. Great. And bus tester tickets. So tester tickets. So they have those options as well. So if you're currently driving a car and perhaps you don't need a car anymore, perhaps it might be worth selling your car. Perhaps then consider cycling, e-scooter, or free tester of the bus tickets. So perhaps that's another options there, and you can reduce some of those expenses every month, I guess. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next one.